Oh, I failed you, didn't I? I was
Don't worry.
supposed to text you. I was supposed to give you
I
our...
keep trying to call people, and they keep giving me the runaround of, like, you know.
Yeah, Jen will be very direct and very helpful.
Yeah. No, that'd be great.
Yes.
Okay, let's see here. Okay. Looks like we are on live. So I want to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us as we begin yet another week. I'm thrilled to have Karen Nielsen-Anson here. We were rocking out beforehand with our younger kids, our Yeladim preschoolers, kindergartners, and first graders. That was awesome. And now we're going to pray together. So Karen, if you can lead us.
How wonderful it is that we all get to come together, that we do have some means of connection, that we do have this miracle, this live stream, that we get to connect with you all and to give you that hope and that hopefully that continued celebration of Shabbat and to hang on, and hopefully this global pandemic won't last forever, and you will get a sense of hope and fulfillment here at Congregation Kol Ami. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, hine ma tov. Yadarai, 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 yadarai. Hine ma tov, hine ma tov. Yadarai, 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 yadarai. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. And turn with me, won't you, to 142, where we welcome in our Shabbat angels. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bohem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni LaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem LaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then on 138, where we welcome in Shabbat, much like we would greet a bride at her wedding. And we'll do it on page 138. We'll do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Of course, for 9, we'll rise up. And I invite you to rise up as well and face a door where that Shabbat could enter. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor bezakur bidibur echad, Hishmianu elam yechad, Adonai echad, Ushemo echad. L'shem al tiferet v'liti la 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 chadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela l'chadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat lekuven elkar ki makor habracha merush mekidem nesuka tov ma'aseh b'makshiva techila la 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 chadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela l'chadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela hitori kiva ori kumi uri shir daberi kavod Adonai yilak nigla la 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 chadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela l'chadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. We rise and we face the door. Bo'iveh shalom ateret ba'ala gava simcha ubitala togamone am segula bo'ichala la 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 chadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela l'chadodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela.
We turn now to page 100. Let me see, I believe 140 is the page we're on. For Psalm 92, verse 13, which says, the righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no wrong. Sadikata hamar yifra, ke'erez balvanon yeske, shetulim beveit Adonai, bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu, od yenuvim b'seva, Eshenim v'ranim yehiyu hagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri velo avlad. Page 144, Hatzi Kaddish. Yitkadav yikadash shemei rabba Be'almandi vrachir tevim lich malchute Becha yechov yomecho Uvchaye decho be'Yisrael Bagala Uvizman karivi meru amen Yeshme rabba mevarach Le'alam al me'omaya Yitbarach Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalel shemei d'kudusha brehu le'elam mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'ne'emata da'mihiram be'alma v'meru. Amen. We rise for the Baruch Hu, our call to worship, page 146.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Hanai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. We turn to page 149. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim, page 150.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael, Ahavta, Torah mitzvot, chukim umishpatim, otanu limadta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shokveinu uvkumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'orach yameinu, uvahem negei yomam v'leila. Ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la.
Page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kibud Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed.
Ve'avta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levavcha, v'chol nafshecha, v'chol meodecha, v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom ha'levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, v'vlechtecha v'derech, v'shachbecha u'kumecha, u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu l'totafo bein einecha, Ochtav al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem ekol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim Elohim Ani Adonai Elohim Asher hotzeiti ethem meretz Mitzrayim liot lachem leElohim Ani Adonai Elohim Adonai Elohim Emet. When we were about to cross the sea into our redemption, what we experienced in that moment was a moment where all of us received revelation together. And this was what's to come actually in this week's Torah portion. Well, I'll talk about tomorrow. But how in other faiths, individuals like Prophet Muhammad in Islam received revelation in a cave in Medina. But in Judaism, we received revelation as a group, as an entire people. And for us as a people, I think it was really the moment when we crossed the sea that made us realize the power of God and how God was there to help all of us. And so as we walked forward and we brought one another, we pulled one another, there had to have been some small children, some elderly people, some people with disabilities who, needed help getting across that water, and we made sure everyone crossed the sea. That was a moment when we realized that as a people, we were never truly alone, but that there was always somebody there to help us. And so we sing of that moment and recall that moment and think as well how we can be helpers to help other people find their place of freedom. With Mi Chamocha, page 158.
Yam pam pam pa yam pam 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 pa yam pam pam pa yam pam 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 yam pam pam pa yam pam 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 yam pam pam pa yam pam 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 pam. Mi chamocha be'elim Adonai, mi chamocha ne'eder b'kodesh, nora tahilot osefele, nora tahilot osefele. Malechutecha ra'uvanecha, ba'okei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, zei Elianu v'yamru, zei Elianu v'yamru, Adonai imlok le'olam ba'ed, Adonai imlok le'olam ba'ed. Yam pam pam pa yam pam 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 pa yam pam pam pa yam pam 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 yam pam pam pa yam pam 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 yam pam pam pa yam pam 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 pam.
Page 160.
And we spread that shelter of peace over ourselves. Ufros aleinu Sukkot, Sukkot, Shalom Echa, spread over us, spread over us, spread over us, a shelter of peace.
162. We remember Shabbat is a delight. As long as we have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has also kept us. Join us in singing Vishamru.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם.
We rise for the Amidah. A thought has blown the marketplace away. There's a song on the wind and joy in the trees. This Sabbath arrives in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night. Eternity utters a day. Page 164.
Adonai, Ananana Svatai Tiftach, Ananana Ufi Yagid, Ufi Yagid Tahilatecha, Ananana Adonai, Ananana Svatai Tiftach, Ananana ufi yagid tahilatecha.
Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Ima'ot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'elam Adonai, Mechaye Hakol Atah Rav Le'Oshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid Agashem, Mechalkel Chayim Be'esed, Mechaye Hakol Be'rachamim Rabim, Sohomech Noflim Berofe Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Baal Givurot, Umidomela, Melech Memi, Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emanat Halecha Hayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol, Atah Kadosh Shemha Kadosh, U'Shem B'chol Yom Yehalu Chasela, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You may continue silently on your own, or use this as a time for your own prayers and meditations of your heart. And when you're finished, you may be seated.
shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael.
It's time we turn to our prayer for healing, the Mishaberach, which can be found on page 371. We've seen this past couple weeks, unfortunately, from COVID, the death toll is still as high as it has been, but we're seeing fewer diagnoses and cases. So hopefully that death toll will go down. But so things are getting better as more people are wearing masks, people are getting vaccinated. Let's not let our guard down. Fortunately, there's still people, including people in our own community here, who are sick and in need of a prayer of healing. So we think of them, and for all those who are carrying some sort of soreness, some sort of pain, whether it's of the mind, body, and spirit. We are on page 371.
Yisheberach avotenu mikor habracha la'imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
This week we think of these members of our community and their loved ones. Aharon ben Avraham, Esther bat Malka, Gita Leah bat Mashachana, Michael ben Manya, Shaul Mordechai ben Hana, Israel Isser ben Moshe, Yosefa Ariel bat Sarah, Yeshua David ben Shaul Mordechai ben Esther, Ethan Allison, Maureen Berry, Denise Dobling, Carl Gallup, Will Goldman, Sylvia Gray, Sharon Hobbs, Sandy Kahn, Sharon Katz, Megan Magleby, Jamie Manson, Tyler Matthews, Janet Morley, Shari Pedersen, Laura Reese, Cheryl Rothenberg, Gary Rubenstein, Penny Spector, Angela Stefani, Linda Stern, Gloria Sussman, Dustin Wallace, Judy Wolf, and Margie Woodruff. And if you have a name to add, I invite you to do so at this time.
And to all those names we hold in our hearts, Misheberach imotenu mikor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shaleima, a renewal of body, a renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are in February. February is, of course, Black History Month. And I was thinking today, about a significant event that occurred in Black history in America. And this was in October of 1901. And in October 1901, President Theodore Roosevelt invited Booker T. Washington to the White House for dinner and announced publicly that he was inviting Booker T. Washington to the White House for dinner. Now, other presidents had privately met with Black Americans for dinner or engagements, but it had never been public and not at the White House. And Booker T. Washington, in case you don't know about him, he was this brilliant scholar, and he was born as a slave. And then following slavery, like I said, became this scholar, this very notable figure, controversial figure in our country, who had a lot of views on economic policy and people working their way up. And with Booker T. Washington, this was an incredibly meaningful moment in Black history for a former slave to be invited to the White House to dine in the White House with the president as his guest of honor. Now, Roosevelt had, when he was governor of New York, had invited Black Americans to dine with him before, but this was first time as president. And there were people such as the governor of Mississippi who were outraged and said that this was so undignified, that this was disgracing the office of the president, that this was disgracing the White House, and he said horrible racist things about Booker T. Washington and criticized Roosevelt sharply for doing this. But aside from just a symbolic gesture, Booker T. Washington would go on to be one of Roosevelt's most trusted advisors. And Roosevelt's often considered one of our better presidents. And it wasn't just Roosevelt, though, because Roosevelt's successor, as well, President William Howard Taft, also relied heavily on Booker T. Washington as one of his own advisors, too. And William Howard Taft, one of the things he was notable for was not his presidency, but his post-presidency, where he became a justice of the Supreme Court, the only president to go from president to Supreme Court justice. So he was considered this wise, thoughtful leader. And here he was, relying on Washington to be one of his trusted advisors. And we would see that since Booker T. Washington, there would be more Black Americans who would advise presidents. Heck, we even had a Black president, President Obama, of course. But today we have a Black Vice President Kamala Harris. And we've had Black Secretary of States, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, a Black Attorney General in Eric Holder, Black Housing and Urban Development Secretaries in Ben Carson and Marcia Fudge, a Black National Security Advisor, Susan Rice, and we now have our first Black Secretary of Defense in Lloyd Austin. And so we've seen that once it became acceptable and normal for presidents to include in their cabinet and as their advisors people of color, all of a sudden it made our country better. There were more thoughtful, intelligent people with different backgrounds and different perspectives that could help our country and help our president. And so we've benefited from widening that tent. But it's not just through the presidency that we see this. I think we see this also within Judaism. Because for thousands of years, we listen to primarily male voices. And there are movements today that still focus primarily on male voices. And the question we have to ask is, who are we benefiting if we exclude half of our community and half of our population? And it was on June 3rd, 1972, that the Hebrew Union College, where I went to rabbinical school, ordained the first woman in America, Sally Priesand, as a rabbi. And Rabbi Priesand would go on to serve the rabbinate for over 30 years. She's still a rabbi. She's retired now. And Rabbi Priesand set the stage for thousands of women to become rabbis. Some of these women I consider some of my rabbis and teachers. And there was a lot of criticism, of course, when Hebrew Union College ordained its first female rabbi. I mean, after all, there were people who said, can women be rabbis? Do women have the intellect to be rabbis? Do women have the emotional capacity to be rabbis? Things we still hear about, like President of the United States. But also, I think there was an underlying fear. What if we allow women to become rabbis, then can they take my job? And what I can say today is that by including women as rabbis, like I said, we now have so many more perspectives. We have so much more thought. We have so many more voices to enrich our people and our learning. But I look too at the number of synagogues out there, the number of college campuses with the Hillel out there, the number of Jewish organizations out there, the number of prisons, and the number of hospitals that need chaplains. And if we had not allowed women to become rabbis, there would not be enough rabbis to cover all of these needs. We probably still don't have enough rabbis to cover all of these needs. And this would have caused, I think, men like me, complete burnout. As it is, as a rabbi, I work probably 70, 80 hours on an average week. And if there was even more we had to cover, because we didn't have female colleagues, I don't think the rabbinate would be a particularly healthy place, and I don't think that we rabbis would be very good rabbis, because we would be spread too thin. So, short, I think that Rabbi Priesand set the stage to help me be a better rabbi, to help all rabbis be better rabbis, and to help our people. And including others to help us is a message that is so important in our Torah portion this week, Parshat Yitro. What we read about in Parshat Yitro, Yitro is the name of Moses' father-in-law, Jethro in English. And Jethro was a Midianite leader. And Moses had not seen him in a while, since he had left the desert to go liberate his people. And then he frees them, comes back into the desert, and he finds Yitro, and they meet up with each other. And we read that when Moses sees his father-in-law, he is so excited, he rushes over and kisses him and hugs him and tells him all about what has happened in Egypt and the splitting of the sea and the plagues. And his father-in-law, who's of a different faith and background, celebrates that and says how wonderful it is that your God does this for you. But he asks Moses how he's doing. And Moses isn't doing very well. Because we know from the Torah that there were about 600,000 Israelite men of fighting age, which we can then figure if men made up about half of the population, there had to have been at least double that for the number of women that there were. And then that doesn't include the people that were too young or the people who were too old or those unable to fight. So we're talking well over 1 million people, according to the Torah, that Moses was leading. And Moses was in charge of solving every single dispute. And he was stressed and burnt out from this. I mean, imagine that I have a dispute with my next door neighbor. I get a new next door neighbor. My dog barks, and my next door neighbor complains to me, your dog barks too much, and I say, well, the dog was here before you, so deal with it. And the neighbor and I have this argument. We are at an impasse. We can't get beyond that. And so we take it to President Biden. Now, do you think that President Biden probably has more important things to do than solve the dispute between me and my neighbor over a dog? Yes. Imagine what an ineffective leader President Biden would be if he had to resolve every dispute between every single American. Families fighting over inheritance, employment disputes, etc., etc. Imagine that. If President Biden had to solve every single argument we ever got into, there's no way he could get anything done or be a good leader. And similarly with Moses, Moses cannot be a good leader handling every single dispute. And he's not getting sleep. He's exhausted. Maybe you felt like that sometimes. And Jethro says to his son-in-law, Moses, you need to delegate. You can't, this isn't sustainable. This isn't sustainable for you to be able to solve everyone's problems. You're going to get burnt out, and you won't be a good leader. And so he tells Moses what you need to do is appoint judges. And you need to appoint wise people as judges. And use your judgment in appointing these judges. But have judges that solve disputes over thousands of people. And then ones above that who solve over hundreds of people. And ones above that that solve over 50s of people. Ones over that who solve over tens of people. And finally, it should get to you, and you can bring any disputes you can't solve at that point to God. And we see that then in the Torah with Zelophehad's daughters, where judges cannot figure out their issue, where they say, our father died and he had only daughters. Who inherits his land? And this goes up all the way the chain, all the way to Moses, who brings it to God. But we can assume that with these judges, just like with our own courts, like if I have a traffic ticket that I dispute, it doesn't go to the Supreme Court. There are judges much below that who can help me figure that out. We assume that these people take a load off of Moses' shoulders, and as a result, make him the incredible leader that he becomes, so that he can leave for 40 days and 40 nights, as we read this week, and get our Torah for us and bring it back down to us. How could he do that if he had to be around to solve every problem? this is something I've had to learn as a rabbi as well. I think that as rabbis, sometimes we feel a responsibility to do everything and not hand things off and not put too much burden on our congregants and try to keep the control over that. And I see some value in that. But also what we've seen lately in our community is that using volunteers and having committees and such doesn't diminish from the role of the rabbi, where people go, why do we need a rabbi anymore? But it enables us to do so much more and to have a better synagogue, which reflects well on me and you and everybody. We're seeing that. A couple examples are our newly formed adult education committee and our communications committee too. I unfortunately don't have the ability, like I said, I work 70 to 80 hours a week, to be able to call all 400 families in our congregation and hear how they're doing. So what do we have? We have a committee that has been formed recently that does that, where they have maybe 10 people in this committee, and each of them calls 40 folks and lets me know who to follow up with. And when we do stuff like this, when we include more people, like I said, it doesn't diminish from our leadership, but rather it saves me. It gives me time to rest. It gives me time with my family. It gives me time to study, and it gives me time to focus on the people in our community who are in the most need of spiritual healing or learning in that moment. And I think another great example of this is in a few weeks, we'll be delivering gift bags, mishloach manot bags, to all of our congregants for Purim. And boy, I sure wouldn't have time to make all the hamantash and drive them to every person. But with our network of volunteers and delegating to one another, we're able to touch so many more people. So I think this is a lesson. I'm speaking here of myself, but I'd encourage you to think for yourself. What is it that you're holding on to? Where are you spread too thin? Where can others help you? And who could be those wise people who have different skill sets that can help you? When I realized I was going to be leading services on my own for an entire year, and I have many gifts, singing is not particularly one of them, it was great for me to reach out and find a few people like Karen and others in our community who could take some of that off of me and lead us beautifully in music. Who do you know that can take something off of your plate so that you can have more time for yourself and it can make you better, as well as what your goal, what you're trying to accomplish, better as well? I see it time and again. We carry so much. We carry so much. And it feels like this year, when we're not getting to see each other, we've been carrying more than we are normally used to doing. And so let's find ways that we can unload our burdens onto others and still find time too to be able to help others unload their own burdens. And I think when we do this, we create a holier community, but also we create holier versions of ourselves. The Torah refers to us as klei kodesh, holy vessels. But just like any vessel, that vessel needs to be taken care of in order to be worthwhile. If it's used too much, if it's neglected, if it's abused, it's no longer a worthwhile vessel. So please protect yourself by helping others and allowing others to help you. What we see through Moses is that when we delegate, we maybe expose our own vulnerabilities a little, we become stronger as an entire community. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Yasher Koach, Rabbi.
Thank you. So a few announcements. Big one tomorrow night is Synagogue Night Live. SNL is coming to Kolami. And that's going to be going on for that is going to be going on at 6:45 on Saturday evenings for the next few weeks. And we're going to start with Havdalah, and that will be followed by 3 to 4 performers of adults and kids in our community. This week, some of our performers include one of our 10th graders, Mark Fisher, playing the clarinet, Frank Yanowitz playing jazz piano, Avi Gottschalk, one of our bar mitzvah students from this past year, who was on TV on the local news here for his ability to spin a basketball on his finger, will be doing that. And also, Karen Nielsen Anson will be singing. So some great talent in our Kolami community, and that's going to be emceed by John and Helene Cuomo. If you are interested in performing or have questions or suggestions, hit up John and Helene. I'm grateful to them. Purim is coming up, and that begins the evening of Thursday, February 25th, and we are going to be reading Megillah over Zoom, and the Megillah Esther, and we will be having a debate. Now, many of us are used to a Hamantash and Latka debate on Purim and Hanukkah. However, this is a Kolami version of it. When I came here, I'd been hearing how how divided our community was, how we were really two synagogues kind of merged into one. We were bourbon fans and Scotch fans. And so we are going to have experts on Purim who are going to debate Scotch or bourbon and settle this once and for all, where you can vote for your favorite liquor between Scotch and bourbon.
Right.
And so that's what we'll be doing. And we'll also be giving mishloach and manot bags, and also gifts to those who are in need. And so if you want to help us deliver that or donate to those projects, you can do so by reaching out to our admin assistant, Tracy Plotkin. We'd be most grateful. Tracy's been working hard, baking lots of hamantash, as has Moshe, for us to deliver to everyone. And when we do the Megillah reading, a bunch of our office staff has decided to make this extra groovy this year by dressing up in 60s and 70s attire. You're welcome to do so, and we will give prizes to the best getup. A few more things coming up. We have a lot of announcements. We are going to spruce up your Seder this year. The Adult Education Committee is running a Pesach recipe contest and creating a cookbook out of it. So this is going to be we're going to create a year-long Kolami holiday cookbook, and Passover is our very first holiday. So if you would like to send in your recipes, please do so. Send in your best kosher for Passover, tidbits, nosh, lunch on the go, soups, sides, family dinner, Seder centerpieces, and sweets. More info can be found on our website. And our annual Jewish Day at the Capitol, which was such a huge success, is coming up on February 16th. And I just got word that we have confirmation that Governor Cox is going to speak to us that day. So there's going to be two parts of it. A part at 10 a.m. where we're going to lobby some senators and representatives, and this is on February 16th, Tuesday, February 16th, and we'll be talking as well to the president of the Utah Senate President Adams. And at 2 o'clock over Zoom, we'll be meeting with Governor Cox. Would love to have your support. Our two top priorities that we'll be talking to them about is supporting a bill that will address $15 million to fight homelessness and hunger, as well as a bill promoting Holocaust education here in Utah. So watch for emails for that. Couple more things coming up. We have our usual adult educational opportunities, Intro Judaism, Advanced Conversational Modern Hebrew, and Tanakh and Torah study with Rabbi Wenger and Faye Lincoln. Info's on our website about that. And also, we are now going to Israel. You might remember we were supposed to go to Israel this past summer because of COVID, did not work out. Israel is now over 50% vaccinated. They are kicking butt at that. And so we are planning to go to Israel December 21st through January 2nd this coming winter. So in about 10, 11 months. And I would love for you to come with us. It's Israel without the horrible heat. So please look for forms. Contact me if you'd like to go with me to Israel. I'd love to have you on our trip. And the very final announcement that I just got as well, approval to announce that just came through is that our cantorial search committee has been working very hard, and we are going to be welcoming our very first candidate for a weekend, the weekend of February 19th through 21st. And that will be Cantor Yona Klieger from Los Angeles. And so please tune in. We'll send some emails about that. But Cantor Klieger is a very talented cantor. We've gotten over a dozen applications and are narrowing them down to our top choices. And Cantor Klieger is one of those. And so please mark the weekend of February 19th through 21st. Cantor Klieger will be leading our Friday night service with me. This will be over Zoom since he can't travel out here, and other things over the weekend. Thank you. Sorry, that was a lot of announcements this weekend, but a lot of great things coming up. And thank you, of course, Karen, for leading us so beautifully in our service this evening and beforehand with our little students as well. We are going to turn now to page 586 for the top Aleinu on the page. Please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol.
V'teku la'liotzer b'reshit, shehu notei shamayim v'yoser aretz, u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim ima'al, u'shchinatu zo b'gofei meromim, u'Eloheinu eino, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu notei shamayim v'yoser haaretz u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim ima'al u'shchinatu zo b'gofei meromim Eloheinu eino emet malkeinu efezulato kakatuv betorato v'datayom v'hashivota elevavecha ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim Bashamayim ima'al Ve'al ha'aretz mitachat Eino D'Kein D'Kavei Adonai.
הכתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. The light of life is a finite flame, like the Shabbat candles. Life is kindled, it burns, it glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty, but soon it fades. Its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance, and our lives are full. But as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down in gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more, and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory, slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. This week, we think of these loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, and those who have died in this season in the years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. And we think of these people who are in Pirish Shloshim, 30-day period of mourning, Lilia Krutikov, mother of Sasha Shavit, and Rachel Navarro, longtime member of Kol Ami. And these Yortzites anniversary passing of these loved ones. Jay Abramowitz, Alvin Ernesto Alvarado, Frida Lee Auerbach, Louis Berry, Gregory Balin, Nathan Brief, Florence Cardone, Molly Doctorman, Mark Dykes, Louis Edelman, Charles Feinberg, Harold Finling, Charles Goldstein, Paulina Grossman, Erwin Grossman, Dora Gus, Stuart Hayden, Nate Kaufman, Ida Auerbach Lazarus, Max Levitt, Hazel Lieberman, Annette Lovinger, Robert Mendelson, Diane Greenberg Roseman, Jack Roseman, Reuben Samuel, Louis Seidman, Irving I. Solomon, Louis Spector, Johannes Vatsvag, and Elizabeth Versen. And if you have a name to add, I invite you to do so at this time. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. If you are...
I'm sorry, I started to say
Oh.
good morning.
If you are in mourning or it's your tradition to do so, you're welcome to rise and to join in with us on page 598. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, be'alman divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol be'Yisrael, ba'gala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mivrach le'olam omei omaya, yibrach v'yishabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shmei dekudisha brechu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush v'chata v'nechemata, dam yiram ve'alma v'imru amin. Yehi shlei rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Ve'imru amen. O say shalom b'mromav, huya say shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who are mourning comfort the bereaved among us. And again we say, amen. I want to thank you for tuning in with us again for Shabbat. And we are going to now turn to Karen for a concluding song.
Thank you, Rabbi, and a special thanks to all those folks out there who serve on committees in order to free up the rabbi's time. I'm reminded in saying the Mourner's Kaddish that he was able to call me the day that I buried my brother 2 years ago, and it meant the world to hear from him on that day. And I know it's only because of the community that we're a part of. That
It's
you
a
have all
special community.
these volunteers who get together and who help you deliver the goods.
Thank you.
And this song is based on a song by Dan Nichols called Kahila Kadosha, and it goes like this. I stand up for you, you stand up for me. Together we make a community. When I sing with you and you sing with me, together we make perfect harmony. Kahila, Kadosha, Kahila, Kadosha, Kahila, Kadosha, Kahila, Kadosha, la 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 la. Oh, la 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 la. The only time that we look down on someone's when they're on the ground. We bend down to lift them up. I stand up for you, you stand up for me. Together we make a community. If I sing with you and you sing with me, together we make perfect harmony. Kahila, Kadosha, Kahila, Kadosha, Kahila, Kadosha, Kahila, Kadosha, la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Oh, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. We use our words, don't push or shove. Every day we learn that love, it's how we give, it's how we love, it's how we live. I stand up for you, you stand up for me. Together we make a community. If I sing with you and you sing with me, together we make perfect harmony. Kahila, Kadosha, Kahila, Kadosha, Kahila, Kadosha, Kahila, Kadosha, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Oh, la 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 la. La 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 la. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. We kind of McGillis